Kigali, Rwanda. At least 2,400 participants drawn from 53 African countries and 27 other countries come together for the inaugural Africa Protected Areas Congress to discuss the role of protected areas in conserving nature.
This is the inaugural Protected Areas Conference for Africa. In the past, we've always gone to the World Parks Congress and did not have a platform to discuss African solutions to protected areas. So this Congress is critical for the future of protected areas in Africa. And because it's the first, it sets the platform and baseline which we can build on to talk African solutions for protected areas in a unique way.
Imagine the size of Africa, the lack of communications in many ways. This is our chance to meet organizations that we probably have never heard of and probably never met. So the excitement is very much there, and the fact that this conference is happening in Africa is incredibly important to everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise
The Congress was attended by former African heads of states, at least 16 African ministers, as well as representatives of indigenous communities, all of whom came together to develop a singular voice in charting a path for Africa's conservation agenda. The African Biodiversity Collaborative Group, ABCG, a consortium of 7 international non-governmental organizations with a wealth of experience on African conservation matters, played a key role at the Congress by advocating for deeper collaboration among stakeholders within the conservation space.
It's quite exciting to have all ranges of people come to this conference. I think we have an array of people, but most importantly, you've talked about indigenous people, you've talked about local communities. The prevailing paradigm now in conservation is putting people at the center of conservation. And so all these local people, the key message I hear them passing is, can we put people at the center of conservation? Can conservation be for the benefit of local people and indigenous peoples? Can conservation not just be what it has been in the past? Can we have this shift so that people are at the very center of conservation? And I think that's what we all have agreed in practice and in the past, that people need to be central to conservation, and that's the message we're hearing from local communities.
Part of this collaboration included advocating for the inclusion of community voices during forums such as the APAC Congress by providing a platform through which they can express themselves.
Most people think like when you're talking about ecosystem, then you should talk about the chimpanzees, the trees, the rivers. There is primates there who, in this sense, are people. So communities are at the center of any ecosystem or landscape that you are dealing with.
As part of the Congress, ABCG held clinics during the Congress that provided an opportunity for participants to interact with some of the tools and approaches for solving biodiversity challenges developed by ABCG. These solutions include teaching communities and policymakers to develop climate change coping strategies, as well as embracing proper land use planning for sustainable landscape for people and nature.
Collaborations expand the availability of resources that your organization may not have. When you're working with 20 different organizations, you've got 20 different access to resources. So collaboration is not just about money, but it's about being able to access resources that you may not have, or that may not be your focus, but you might need in order for you to achieve your goals.
ABCG is where you bring your grievances, you bring your needs, you bring your what you know, and then it makes sense when you share it with other people. And in so doing, our needs becomes our strength.
Planning scenarios makes it a bit complex. So I think
the land use planning tool is critical in addressing resource management in a holistic way. It is also the key to ensuring sustainable utilization of resources and the avoidance of conflicts in resource-rich areas under increasing land pressure.
We've developed a land use planning training course for delivery really to anyone who's interested in promoting land use planning. That can be governments, it can be NGOs, it can be companies, it can be communities living in in agricultural rural areas that want to promote land use planning, and we're seeing a lot of interest. We have a lot of interest in building on the course that we've developed to apply it more widely across Africa.
The course module is already having an impact in countries like Tanzania.
Actually, this course has a very good impact. First of all, in Tanzania, we have the guidelines that guides land use planning process in the district or in the village. But this course and the course modules, they build capacity. They incapacitate someone to be able to identify the needs for land use planning, something that is missing.
Recognizing that development is needed in Africa and welcome the idea is that land use planning can be a valuable tool to make sure that development happens in a conservation compatible manner and delivers sustainable outcomes for the people on the landscape or a site.
In the interactive session on climate change and how communities perceive it, ABCG was able to demonstrate to participants that climate change adaptability is a journey and not a destination.
We've been working for almost 8 years now on this project, and it's this amazing collaboration between all the ABCG partners, and it's really focused on how communities are being impacted by climate change, how they're responding to it, and what some of those impacts on biodiversity might be as well.
We cannot ignore science. Climate change is all about the scientists understanding what is happening so they can impart on us the knowledge of how to mitigate it. So science is the basis of the work that these organizations do. So it's fact-based work, but the important thing is it is translated and encouraged for local communities to participate so that we can gain their traditional knowledge, marry it with scientific information in order for us to be able to identify and develop mitigations to challenges that we see as communities and as researchers and as the scientists.
A knowledge that 68-year-old Nicholas Gitonga believes will be fundamental if Africa is to successfully conserve its biodiversity.
Mimi kwangu, I think ni tunasema aje, si mbali sana na msitu. Mimi nikiamuka tu naona Mount Kenya all the time. Najua mvua iko au mvua hakuna. Mimi nawaelezea mvua iko sababu naona vile snow iko. Kama sasa ni nini dry nawaambia mvua hataki kuwa ni wakati ya mvua hakuna na inakuwa hivi hivi.
Gitonga feels the old have been left out of the conservation conversation.
We have lived with these animals. We have lived on this environment since time immemorial, and we draw our livelihood from this place. So we have coexisted with these animals. We keep cattle, camel, sheep, and we have lived with all these animals. And we also don't destroy the environment. We have our cultural way of managing the resources.
We have to have people at the forefront. And these people, it's not only telling them what to do, no. They have an indigenous knowledge. They all have indigenous knowledge. They've lived with the wildlife and forests over many millions of years. So they know what has been happening. So they have that knowledge, which we need to take and then bring in science on top of it. And then we get on the same understanding.
From interaction with participants as well as member organizations, it is clear that success in conservation cannot be achieved by one entity alone. ABCG will continue to foster this collaboration for the sake of current and future generations.
ABCG has come to coordinate collaboration among us, and we think that that was a missing piece. And we salute ABCG for the wonderful work it's doing in convening us, in collaborating effort, and helping us to work together for the good of Africa.
The Kigali call to action that was adopted by the conference and sets out important action points and priorities for biodiversity conservation resonates with ABCG's core belief. Conservation must put people first and should be a collaborative effort.
If you look at the number of landscapes we've covered in Africa, there's no way we could have done that as a single organization. If you look at the projects that we've done, no way we could have done that as a single organization. And all the events today, again, all organized under the auspices of ABCG. So it's hugely important, not just to us, but in my other projects as well. It's all about creating partnerships.
So to my fellow Africans, let me say this. We have to have the pride. We have to have the confidence. And more than anything else, we have to have the passion that this is our home. This is the land that we live on. These are our animals, our trees, our forests. It's our livelihoods. If we don't care, who does?